Hello, you may know me as kind of a game developer on YouTube, or you may know me from my Forge videos that I have on here. I don't know how you subscribed, or if you're just finding this video because it's titled something with Halo, and the Halo Infinite gameplay just came out. But I wanted to make this video because I am a very big fan of Halo. Always have been, always will be. That doesn't mean I like the new stuff that comes out, but I just wanted to go over everything, very slowly go through everything that happens in the new 8-minute gameplay debut of Halo Infinite. And the last time I posted a reaction of the 8-minute thing, it was just a completely pure reaction. I hadn't seen anything before. And if you've seen that video, you know I was more or less disappointed, and I had a lot of concerns about certain parts of the gameplay demo. So, I just wanted to make a video going more in depth into what happens in that gameplay debut and how I feel about that. And I'm going to start off by kind of going over my credentials as like a Halo fan, like why you should care at all what I have to say. Obviously, you should try and care about anything anyone has to say about a topic, unless they're obviously raving lunatics or morons. But I think I have some credentials on what should be going on in the Halo universe and how the gameplay should feel, because I have been a Halo fan my entire life. Obviously not my entire life, but like since I was a very wee child. I got Halo CE for Christmas as a kid and played it non-stop until Halo 2 came out. And I played that non-stop until Halo 3 came out. And I played that non-stop until Halo Reach came out. And I played a lot of Halo Reach. Went back to Halo 3 because it's better than Halo Reach. And then Halo 4 was going to come out. A new company, 343, is working on it, not Bungie. But I was still very excited. I really wanted to play Halo 4. I got it, I played it, and I wasn't even in denial when I started playing it. I didn't even think, wow, this is a good game, and then took me a while to realize that it was garbage. I could tell right away that Halo 4 was garbage. Halo 4 is a terrible Halo game. Probably one of the worst. I mean, if you're going off of campaigns, it's the second worst. But if you're going off of total package, it's the worst. It's garbage. Halo 5 is the second worst, and it has the absolute worst campaign. The least Halo campaign I've ever played. And so far, everything 343 puts out is extremely boring. So that's what has me very worried about Infinite. Though Infinite already from the trailer is looking way better than Halo 4 or Halo 5. But it's not looking great. And more so than just my history and background with Halo, I am the creator of Energy Sword Sunday. This is some kind of slightly popular holiday thing, weekly holiday that goes around where people make edits of characters with the Energy Sword. I started this a few years ago. It took off on Tumblr, and it's kind of a little bit popular on Twitter. Obviously, it's not crazy popular. I'm not a celebrity or anything, and I don't think I am. I don't have a big head about it. I just run the very small Twitter that goes over that. But would I run that if I didn't have a love and passion for Halo? No, not at all. I love Halo. I don't know. I've played probably hundreds of hours for each Halo game up until around Halo 4 and 5, 343 ones. But I love Halo. It's something that I've played for years. And I just wanted to go over everything I think about Infinite. And I am just going to jump right into the video, get off the webcam, and tell you what I think of the video while I play it side by side. So enjoy the video if you want to. If you don't like it, leave stupid comments like you did in the last video saying that I'm a Sony fanboy, even though I haven't liked a Sony console since PlayStation 2. By the way, I love PlayStation 2. Beautiful console. But PlayStation 3 was garbage. Haven't played PlayStation 4, so I guess I'm a Sony fanboy. Enjoy the video. Starting off with the demo, the main menu looks really nice. I like the main menu. I like the coloration in the sky right there. I like the colors of the flowers on the ground. And I think the mood's set really well here. I'm interested to see more about what it's like to play the game at night on the ring. Maybe there'll be a couple missions that are kind of nighttime stealth type levels like it was in what is it, the 3rd level of Halo CE, and that 1 level in Reach. I really like the wildlife on the ground there, and I like this ring thing here. I'm sure it's some kind of fast travel mechanic. I like the stones and how they look. It's just the particle effects right there look kind of Unity-ish. They just look kind of boring. I'm sure they'll look better in the actual game. This isn't even a dig at the graphics or like the fidelity of the graphics. It's just the style that they chose for those kind of particles there aren't super interesting. That being said, it's a lot more interesting than what they do in Halo 5 with all these weird dumb effects, and I don't know. It's an improvement. Also, getting in here with I don't know the character's actual name, so I'll just call him Brohammer, because that seems like what everybody seems to call him on the internet. I don't like his dialogue here. It's a little cringy to me. This sequence itself is okay. I just wish that the dialogue was a little better, and I wish that the sequence was executed in a better way, because the idea of the sequence is really good, but every single time that it flies past and it takes a full-on hit from the AA guns, it's like a weapon that's specifically designed to destroy aircraft, and it's getting a full shot straight to the face of the Pelican, and that happens like twice or 3 times in a row. It's kind of silly. I think it would be better visually if the Pelican was just flying by, and then the Brohammer type guy just looked off to the side, and like they came out of clouds or something, and they realized that there's AA guns, and he shot it out, but it was too late, and the AA gun starts taking them down, so they have to crash land. It seems really, really silly that they're going into some kind of canyon, flying directly towards the AA gun, getting a blast directly to the front of the Pelican, turning, and then getting shot by another one. It's really wacky. I understand the point of it. I understand that they're establishing that there's several AA guns in the area and giving you a general feeling for the distance and space that you're in where those AA guns are, but it still comes off as weird and amateurish. Right there, it kind of feels like the people who put together the trailer. I don't know if 343 would put together a trailer or if this is actually in the game, but there's kind of like a horror sting, like a little musical element right there that shows you that something bad's happening, and it kind of feels like they think we're idiots because there's no other music playing right here. I know that something bad is happening right now. We don't really need that weird little sting to tell us that, and it just feels amateurish again. It just feels weird. Now, I saw on Twitter a lot of people were kind of upset with the dynamic between Chief and Brohammer guy. They thought he was kind of whiny and pissy. Some people were saying he was like a girlfriend talking to someone. I don't really get that from this. I do think they made him a little tiny bit too whiny, but I think that for the most part, his emotion that he's showing is very refreshing. And I think the dynamic between him and Chief is very interesting because he's very emotive, and Chief is very down to business. He's kind of objective and has his sights on the mission. I think that's a good kind of dynamic going on between them. I saw somebody on Twitter saying that it was the same energy as Chief and Johnson. I'm not getting that at all. I think that person is out of their mind. There's literally nowhere near the same energy in, like, I don't understand. I'm not even like a huge fan of Johnson. I think he's a great character, but how is this relationship or dynamic right here in any way similar to what happens between Chief and Johnson, who are just kind of like war buddies, and this guy's angry at Chief? It's not the same thing at all. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Why would we want another character that's basically the same thing as Johnson? But I think this character is just fine, and he's a little whiny, but I guess he has the right to, because he wants to see his dumbass family and his war buddies are dead. He mentioned something about condors, which from what I've gathered from other people saying is it's something from Halo Wars 2. Now, I've never played Halo Wars 2. I only played a few minutes of Halo Wars 1. It's not really my thing. And I don't really have an issue with something like Halo Wars vehicles being included in this game. That being said, some of the designs from Halo Wars 2 I don't really like that much, like the Banished Phantom. The Banished Phantom doesn't look terrible, but it feels really weird in this gameplay demo. Something about it graphically, obviously the textures are fucked up in this demo. Disclaimer, I don't care about the graphics right now. I'm talking more about the overall design and the feel of like characters and vehicles and the world. Chief looks great right here, but that Banished Phantom looks really, really toy-like, and it's not just a texture issue. Just the overall design of it feels like something that a kid designed, because there's a bunch of engines in the back of it facing backwards, and then there's these extra engine type things on the top, and they don't really rotate like the Pelicans do, and it just feels like if a middle school or high school kid wanted to come up with their own more badass Phantom, so they sketched it in their little sketchbook or their graph paper book, and that's just how it comes off to me. So coming right out of the Pelican that just crashed, I don't really like the AR in this game. I'll put another disclaimer. The AR obviously looks a million times better than... Well, not obviously, sorry. It's my opinion that the Reach AR is ugly as hell. And there's a few design senses that came from that into this, like how the ammo counter is detachable, which I really don't see the point of, because of the fact that the front part of it doesn't seem super modular in any way. If you wanted to put a scope on it or something, you'd have to elevate it, unless they're going to do some kind of smart sight thing, which seems like it could be possible, because the battle rifle itself has a Picatinny rail thing with a scope that seems slightly discolored, so it seems like it's a separate game object that was placed onto it. I have a feeling that was kind of the case for a few weapons in other Halo games, and those never had attachments, so I'm holding out hope that there's no weapon attachment system in this game, because that's not very Halo. And if we're going to take everything from other games and just shove it into this and take everything out that makes it Halo, besides stuff like the Covenant or the Banished or whatever, then what's the point of retaining the Halo name, honestly, if you're not keeping the gameplay super Halo? I don't really like the assault rifle here. I think it's got too many little pieces on it. It's just my opinion. I like things that are more chunky and like kind of the silhouette is what defines it, and the silhouette in this is obviously still good, but it seems like they're adding a lot of really unnecessary detail, and you're probably not going to find that opinion in any other video, because what everybody says is that these games need more detail. Now, it doesn't sound great. I think it sounds really, really weak overall compared to any other Halo game, including 4 and 5. And I don't know what's with 343. I just feel like they're really bad with sound design. A lot of their weapons, they do this thing where they go out into the field and they record real world weapons, and they put that in the game without, doesn't seem like they have any consideration as to whether or not that sound really actually packs a punch or is like something iconic or recognizable to the player. Like you can hear so many different gunshots in Halo 4 while playing multiplayer, but you can't really differentiate between them because they just sound like generic rifles and assault rifles and stuff. Like, look at something like the CE shotgun. It is really interesting sounds. And then we'll see the other shotgun in Halo Infinite later, and it has really, really weak sound design. And something about the Covenant weapons so far in 343 games and 4 and 5 is that they try and add these really weird thwapping and twanging, like gross kind of sounds that they've designed for the alien weapons. And none of them are nearly as iconic as in like Halo 2 or Halo 3 or Halo 1. Honestly, any of the Bungie games do the sounds a lot better than 343. And I don't know who their lead sound designer is, but I really don't like your work. And we can see that there's a big open area to explore in this demo. And I think that's really cool. I just don't want it to end up like kind of a Far Cry scenario where the main objective is going to be these kind of outpost type areas where there's just going to be enemies or randomized enemies. And I like the linear fashion of other Halo games. I like the kind of enemy placement is fine-tuned to the experience like in Halo 2. And it's just a really great experience that I enjoy going back to even though it's linear. And I hope they could somehow replicate that with each of the various sections in this game. But I don't know. Thinking of Halo 4 and 5 has me pessimistic. So I don't know. I hope they can do that, but I'm not optimistic at all. I also don't like how this demo goes straight into combat where he's just shooting these grunts after walking out of the Pelican. I thought it was kind of weird. Both from like a logic in the game sense and a creative choice, because it's like the trailer or this demo that you're trying to do, just have him walk around and explore and look at the environment a little bit longer before you start jumping into this awkward combat between three grunts. And the blood splatter is really weird. I see a lot of people online really praising it. On Twitter, they really like that there's these giant blood splatters, and it just seems really distracting to me. I know in CE there's usually like blood splatters, but it's not like a giant puff of air, a puff of like blood in the air or a splurt of blood. It's kind of tame, and then a lot of blood gets on the floor, and none of the blood gets on the floor in this trailer, by the way. I'm sure that'll be in the final game, but I don't know why they showed off such a weird build. People say that's because it was more stable, but you had a really long time to put together a demo for this event. One solution I could think to this is the big blood splatters that they have. I think that would be a really good headshot indicator. Maybe they could just repurpose that for if you headshot a grunt or an elite or something, the blood just splats everywhere. I'm not a huge fan of hit markers. I like them in Call of Duty because sometimes it's really hard to see what's going on in those games. But for Halo, it just feels weird. And it's like another one of those things from other games that's making it kind of a homogeneous property that's just taking elements from other things. I don't think it really adds much to the experience, and it feels like there's a lot of stuff in Halo 5 that makes the gameplay feel more calculated and less spontaneous, like how you'll just get into Magnum fights for the 100th time. You'll get in a fight with a Magnum where you just want to get as many headshots as possible and then go hide when recharge your shields. I know that's a similar thing to what you do in other Halos, but it feels much more repetitive in Halo 5, and there's hit markers in that too, so it's just like, I don't know, you just get a sense of deja vu when you play that game, because the map selection isn't great either. So you're on the same map again. Oh look, everybody rushed this one point and I just 4 or 5 headshotted them or whatever, and I won that little battle. It's not as fun, it's not as dynamic as, say, the rush of the power weapons on the pit. I have nothing to say about this UNSC ship thing here. The design's okay. It kind of looks like the Infinity or whatever from the 343 games. I don't have an issue with the design of the Infinity. It's okay. I don't like how the multiplayer tried to make it like you were on the Infinity running simulations. I don't like explanations for my multiplayer. I just want to play the game. And people will argue that then just ignore it. If it's not detracting from your experience in that way, then just let other people enjoy it. But it does detract from the experience for me, because there's something just more fun and loose about getting into a game of like free-for-all on high grounds and everybody's killing each other and you're just doing wacky shit and you're having fun. And it just feels weird to imagine that these are Spartans that have been training years and stuff and they're running simulations on the Infinity. It's kind of cringy, actually. I don't know. Back to this ship. Exploring it sounds like it might be interesting. I don't know how big the inside really is, but if you run into a few, not Covenant, banished troops or whatever in there, that sounds like it might be fun. Nice change of pace from the giant open areas. I wonder what they're going to do with like smaller enclosed areas, because that's kind of something that happens in Halo a lot. Halo 3, like a crow's nest type environment, kind of larger indoor areas, and it's just like, I hope that's something that ends up appearing in here without it just being giant ugly Forerunner places like in Halo 4 and 5. I just want kind of smaller battle areas that aren't Forerunner garbage, like that one in Halo 4 where you get to rescue the scientists. I don't remember where that is, but all that fun's kind of ruined in that level anyway, because they don't let you kill scientists, which I think is really ridiculous. People argue to me that you're the Master Chief, you're work for the UNSC, you should be avoiding collateral damage anyway. And it's like, okay, but it's a sandbox game and it's a fun game. It's like a game that I want to have fun in. Just let me do what I want there. It's more immersion breaking to instantly kill me for killing a scientist than letting me kill scientists. I mean, I'm not going to kill scientists and then be like, that's weird. Why'd they let me kill that scientist? I'm supposed to be the Master Chief. I'm supposed to be a good guy. It's like, I'm an adult. Just let me play the game how I want to play it. Bungie never had an issue with us killing construction workers in Halo 3. For some reason, we can't kill civilians in Reach. I don't know why that popped into their head. I don't know. They just must have been having trouble being good developers near the end. I mean, Reach is kind of shitty, and Destiny's garbage, so I don't know. Here's that Banished Phantom. I already talked about the design of it, so I won't go over that again, but its animation is very janky and wonky or whatever. It's just like slightly tilting in extreme ways, and I'm really confused as to why this is happening. Like, I know there's like build stability and everything people keep coming up with, but like, I've seen Unity projects that just get this down perfectly. I mean, obviously I've seen ones that fail at that, and they're very amateurish, but this is a AAA title by giant developers who have millions and millions of dollars. And you can't get a ship to fly along like a Bezier curve or something and not be a janky mess. Seems like a really, really simple thing to take care of, and yet it still messes up later as well. And obviously this is a scripted sequence for the demo. I'm really hoping that there's some kind of unscripted enemy flying AI besides Banshees in the final game. I want there to be able to be phantoms or something that could drop off troops, because I don't know, not the Covenant, the Banished were just somehow alerted to your presence in a specific area, so they just send in phantoms to drop off, and maybe you could shoot down the phantoms as well. Hopefully even climb in them and do things. I don't know. It's just like some linear experience are okay, but we don't really need to script everything anymore. You're going through the effort of doing this big open environment. Just add certain sandbox elements like larger enemy ships and stuff, and just have some kind of AI that determines that they'll go in, drop off, fly away, and potentially despawn like they normally would in any other Halo game. But have it be AI driven in a way where it's not just a scripted game object that's flying in. It's not essentially a piece of geometry or scenery that's just dropping off characters. In Halo 3, you were able to destroy them at least. I know, I really hope that comes back for this game, because if it's just objects that you can't destroy or really interact with in any meaningful way, then what's the point? It's just another step backwards. And that's not me being pessimistic, because I really hope that's what they do. They're going through with this whole super open game philosophy thing. Surely that's what they're gonna do. Otherwise, come on. And just saying again, there's obvious graphical issues like foliage popping in and random weird things. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that that's gonna be fixed by the time the game comes out. I have a feeling this game is generally ray based, or like ray tracing based, the lighting, and that's what they're going to mostly go off of. So that's not active right now. That's why everything looks toyish and ugly. But I don't know. Hopefully they get that working. I'm sure they will. I would be extremely surprised if this game comes out and they haven't fixed those issues. That would be a new level of low. Master Chief is sprinting right here. I don't think the sprint belongs in Halo. I'll always say that. Sprint ruins the Halo experience. It messes up gameplay pacing. It messes up map design. Clambering messes up map design, and I'm sure that's back. It's just not a good idea, and it's another one of those things where it's just like some other aspect of games that's kind of this element that homogenizes games into being just the same garbage over and over again. Like, it's a very distinct thing from the original trilogy that you just walk and shoot, and I was tricked here at the beginning of the thing because he's walking at such a fast pace right at the bat. I watched that part with my friend, and we both thought that there wasn't any sprint because of how quick he was moving. But they added sprint anyway, even though the base walking speed was just so fast. I don't understand the point. And if you're one of those morons who argues, then just don't press the sprint button. I don't see why I would have to explain to you why that's an incredibly stupid stance to take. People in multiplayer are still going to be pressing sprint, and it's just not a good idea. I don't know why they keep putting it in here, and I know why, because they want it to be fast paced. Nobody likes a slow paced game anymore, even though Master Chief Collection is doing so well with Halo 3 and stuff like that, and Halo 2. Those are fast paced games, but there's this weird perception that the character has to be able to run for it to be fast paced. And that's not true, but that's what they're going to keep doing. Now, the Warthog feels nice in this. I mean, I haven't played it, so I don't know how it really feels, but it looks like it feels nice. It's still a little slidey. If you played Halo 4 and Halo 5, you know the Warthog's very slidey in that game. This looks like a mix between how perfectly like feeling the Warthog is in Halo 3, how chunky and like weighty and realistic it feels, mixed with Halo 4 or 5. Like, it still looks kind of floaty and slidey, but it looks way better. So, that being said, when it goes up a ramp later, the back of it gets hit by a plasma pistol. And it might just be how weak the plasma pistol is, but something that's very common to the other Halo games is that the weapons will actually add a force onto something like a vehicle going up a ramp. So, in like Halo Reach, if you're flying up a ramp and then everybody starts shooting you with the assault rifle, you're probably going to do a few barrel rolls. I hope that's still something that's in here. You'll see later that it doesn't seem like weapons are enacting real world force onto other objects as much as they used to. Specifically with like the Ravager thing that seems to be replacing the concussion rifle, which I hate the concussion rifle. I like it gameplay wise, but as an actual weapon design, it's just severely inferior to the brute shot, which is an extremely well designed and well crafted weapon. But if it's a replacement to that and the brute shot, then it's not a very good weapon. And if it's not a replacement to those weapons, then it's still not a very good weapon, because then you just have a very muddled sandbox where you kind of have this concussion rifle type 3-shot burst weapon, but you still have like a brute shot or some other concussion rifle. And there's going to be plenty of aspects of this game that'll point out where something seems to muddle or oversaturate the sandbox. Some in a hypothetical situation where an alternative or original is still present in the game. If that is the case, then a lot of things are going to be redundant, and 343 is very much used to adding pointless and redundant weapons that muddle the sandbox, such as in Halo 5 they had a battle rifle, a carbine, a light rifle, and the DMR. I think I might be missing one, but those are just like, it's like 4 headshot capable weapons already, excluding the sniper rifles. It's like, what is the point? Get 2 very specific things that kind of fit that general use case scenario, and those are the weapons, and it comes down to preference. We don't need 4 different weapons that come down to preference, and some not even down to preference. In Halo 4, a lot of people would argue that the light rifle is just objectively better than the other weapons, functionally. Like, you can just, it has a faster time to kill. So what is the point? They need to think about those kind of things when they design the game. Now, when it comes down to this kind of tactical map, there's upgrades and database. I don't really like the idea of upgrades in this game, but I understand why they need to be in here for this kind of open world setting. And even I use the word need for need to be in here very loosely. I understand why people think they need to be in here, but I guess they're fine as long as you're not upgrading weapons, which is a very real possibility because there's like this underlying seems to be mechanics to weapons. So hopefully I can't add slug rounds to my shotgun or something. I'm sure some weirdos on Twitter who just obsess over each of the weapons and know all the weapons by their numbered names and what size round they chamber and stuff like that are cooming their pants over the idea of a slug round shotgun in Halo. But those are the kind of people who don't really care how Halo feels. They just are weirdos who just read every single Halo book and do it for the lore. And if you read every single Halo book and all you love about the game is the lore, that's fine. But that's okay. You're still a Halo fan, obviously. Anybody's still a Halo fan. But don't pretend like you have the credentials to criticize the gameplay aspects of the game if you haven't thought critically about every aspect of every Halo game up until that point. Because you're the same people who don't see the issue with sprint or clamber in the game, and you don't care if the game ends up being just a Call of Duty or a Far Cry. And we can see in this little menu that there's these objectives and there's some kind of currency or something you could earn and use. I'm not really sure how that will end up working, and there's some kind of difficulty setting. I read somewhere that you can set the difficulty in the main menu still, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I would like to think that it's the individual difficulty for each of these missions. I understand you could set the difficulty, so if I set it to legendary and one of the missions was normal, I'd like to think that this was kind of just a hard level. It's at the legendary level, but kind of a subsection of it. It's like a normal level on legendary, and there's different areas, like you run into a mission that's a legendary level, and that one will be extremely hard on the actual legendary setting. But I don't know. The map looks nice. I like it. I don't know. I hope these little mission things don't end up being like taking down an outpost in a Far Cry, because I don't like that kind of gameplay. I like the feeling of this area. I like that there's water and these puddles and stuff. That seems like it's going to be a real selling point when they actually get the ray tracing going. I understand why that's there, but aside from the weird ray tracing stuff that I actually don't really care about, I like the aesthetic of this place being kind of waterlogged, and there's branches and everything falling over, UNSC crap that's fallen from the ship. I think this is a really interesting looking area. I don't really like this weird banished base type area that much. It seems okay, but it seems kind of modular for the reason of this being an easily replicatable kind of outpost situation thing, where like you'll run into an outpost like this and they'll just shift around a few boxes so it doesn't look exactly the same. Hopefully that's not the case and it's just like a small area. If that's how it is, then sure, fine, whatever. But I get a feeling that that's how it is. I like these hedgehog things, these little barrier type things. It seems like they're pretty smart with the Banished design. I think is really fun and really interesting. There's a few things that I'll go over to when we get to them that I think need to be tweaked a bit. It's nice to see the suicide grunt coming back, and it's nice to see kind of a gore thing going on where the grunt explodes into like a blue mist. I don't understand how that works really though, because the game is supposedly rated T and that's without a doubt gore, so I don't really get it. Characters exploding into blood is gore, so I don't know how they're getting past that. Honestly, the game should be rated M. There's no point in making it rated T. No parent is going to refuse to buy Halo for their kid because it's rated M, and if they do, that's a negligible amount of people. It's definitely doing more harm than good. I like the Covenant designs. I like the grunts. Even though the shading's fucked up right now, I think that the designs of the characters are pretty good. I do like the sound design of the grunts. The grunts are screaming and very funny and but realistic and tame ways. Like they're just getting murdered and screaming. It's a lot better than the really, really gross and annoying Halo 4 sound effects where they're just like constantly snarling and making disgusting sounds. Seems like they're dialing that back a little bit. Right here, Master Chief pulls out a new pistol. It's called the MK50 Sidekick, and I don't like this weapon. I like how it feels. It feels really good, it seems, and I like how the headshots feel too in this game. And I like the way he's holding it with the two hands kind of held in that way. It looks good, but the actual design of the weapon I think is extremely generic, and there's people who argue with me on Twitter that it doesn't matter that it's generic and that the Halo 2 pistol is generic, and that's not really true. The Halo 2 pistol is better designed than this weapon. It has that cool cage thing that goes over the fingers, but overall, even if it has that cool thing, the Halo 2 pistol is just about the most generic pistol in all of Halo. So why are you using that as an example as to why this thing is okay? You can't take the worst example of good design or of design from a game in a series and say that, well, it looks just like this terrible weapon, so it's good. No, like everything in the game has an interesting and unique design, except for the Halo 2 pistols, and except for this pistol here, it just looks like a 5.7 or something. It's very boring. People were saying it's the ODST pistol. I don't know about that. It doesn't matter. People were saying it's okay because it's the ODST pistol, if it is. But the ODST pistol has this weird, really, really long silencer or suppressor thing, and it has like a weird built-in scope and a bunch of stuff. It just looks different. It looks interesting. This is just a regular generic pistol. You could throw it into a lineup of 50 different video game pistols and it'll take you a long time to pick it out. While if you put the C Magnum in there, you could easily pick that out. And people are arguing that it wouldn't matter even if it is a bad design because they think that the regular Magnum is going to be in the game. And this comes down to the same thing with what 343 does with like headshotable weapons. It's like, hopefully that's not in the game. And they just replace this one or whatever, because then you have two pistols that serve essentially the same purpose. This seems like a pistol that's headshot capable, and it's just a nice pistol thing. And you have a Magnum. What is going to be the difference? It can scope. What is the difference between these weapons, and why are they justified in the sandbox? Say that they did add the Magnum as well. Let's assume the Covenant have at least two headshotable weapons. We have this pistol. We have the commando thing they show in a second. We have the battle rifle. That's 5. Oh, and we also have that new Mangler thing, the Mauler weird looking thing. That's also headshot capable. That's 6 or so headshot capable weapons, excluding the sniper rifles. Now, is that necessary? I mean, the things that 343 did for 4 and 5 are already already muddying and making the sandbox shitty, and now we have even more. More isn't always more. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes fine-tuning something like that is better. I also forgot to point out the shield recharge sounds great, but there's a weird, intrusive, ugly screen effect that happens when the shield recharges. Not sure why they did that. It's kind of ugly. I could throw something like that together in Unity and Photoshop, and I really don't like it. Explosion effects look great. I like the weird liquidy thing for like the plasma grenades, and I like how the actual frag grenades explode as well as fusion coils and everything like that. I think that some of the particle effects and like shader effects for like explosions things look good. The elite design I think is really great. It really harkens back to the Bungie style elites. The shading is still fucked up, obviously. I'm going to keep bringing that up because people are going to raise an eyebrow when I say that this elite looks good. They're going to say it looks like a toy, and I'm sure that's just a shader issue right now and a lighting issue. But the overall design, the silhouette, and how the character looks by how they're modeled and everything is amazing. I missed the old elites so much. I played Halo 2 like yesterday, and I was just thinking how fucking amazing the elites look in that game, and I'm glad that they're back. So the VK-78 Commando thing, another headshot capable weapon. I just don't see the point of having so many headshot capable weapons, and this one's automatic too, so I don't know how well that's going to be balanced in the multiplayer. But it's just a really boring and generic looking weapon as well, just like the sidekick. It looks like something from Far Cry or like a kind of free-to-play game like Dirty Bomb or something like that. Everything in this game for some reason has to have a Picatinny rail, the UNSC weapons. I understand that people really like when things are realistic like that, but it makes them look less interesting in my opinion. Maybe that is in there for functional reasons. Maybe you could put a different scope on this or take the scope off altogether, but that doesn't sound as interesting to me. Sounds weird. Adding attachments to Halo would be a mistake. It would just be another, like SPV3. I understand that's like a separate thing that people are working on, and obviously it's not affecting the main actual game, but it's just the least Halo thing I could think of, putting an underbarrel grenade launcher on a weapon or something like that. It's just people who don't understand Halo trying to change it, and it's really weird. There's so many redundant weapons and stuff in things like that, but SPV3 actually does a lot better job at not making redundant weapons than 343 does, which is really funny because it's like an indie thing. But I don't know. Continuing on to this commando thing, it just looks really boring. I was talking to somebody on Twitter of different ways that you could redesign it. They thought of taking that really small ammo counter and putting it under the red dot sight. I would say another good direction for that would be to integrate the red dot sight into the chassis of the gun, or take the red dot sight off altogether, and just make it like a hipfire weapon that is headshot capable, because it's not really something that we have so far. And my biggest suggestion for it would just be take it out of the game, because I don't think an automatic headshot weapon that can aim down scopes or sights is a good idea. It's an ugly generic weapon. It's not ugly really, but in the sense of like a Halo weapon, it's not iconic looking or anything. It just has that weird Chris Vector ammo thing. Other ways you can make it look more Halo or just less generic is take something, a design thing that they could just inherit from the other Halo games. They decided to mess up the SMG and give it like a P90 mag, but the Halo 2 SMG has that interesting box magazine that goes on the side, and maybe they could do something like that with this weapon, or put it on the forward handguard, like on the bottom, so it reloads kind of like a Bison or something. I don't know, just there's so many ways that you can improve this weapon, and it just surprises me that somebody got paid to design it. And not just to design it, somebody came up with the idea of an automatic headshot capable aim down sights rifle for Halo, and all the people working on the game okayed it. It's just baffling. I like these brute drop pod things that come down. I like that they explode afterwards as well. They're very interesting. Hopefully something like that could be used kind of organically throughout the game in the open world. Like I was saying, maybe you could be spotted somehow in the open world and they just ambush you by dropping down in drop pods to fight you. And it's not just something that happens in these kind of raid scenarios. Looking at the Banished Armor up close, a lot of people have been commenting that it looks very toy-ish. I think a very simple way of taking care of that is just add some scratches and detail to it or something, or fade the paint in certain places. I think I heard somebody else suggest this as well. I think maybe it was like hidden Xperia or something, but I completely agree with that. Another idea I had for the brutes is, I don't know if you've seen Craig, but the brutes look very undetailed. And I'm not talking about graphics when I say undetailed. I'm talking about there's no personality or no real defining features besides that they're big apes. But they don't even have like hair or beards or anything. And I think a good way of getting around that is to add facial hair to them, like Tartarus or whatever, and have like 3 or 4 facial hair types, 2 or 3 skin tone types, have teeth coming out of the mouth, and a few different types of those teeth, and kind of maybe 2 or 3 facial structures, and randomize those, and add some different scar type features, like maybe a few of the brutes have like the one eye with the scratch or whatever, and maybe that's just a rare thing that only shows up on chieftains or something, but randomize the aspects of the character's facial features and stuff like that. Or give them also the things that Atriox kind of has, those kind of braided beard things. There's just so many interesting things that they could have done for these characters, but the brutes just look extremely boring in this game. The actual brutes, not the army. The armor looks kind of cool, but the actual brutes just look like homunculi, soft flesh men, and I don't really get it. Maybe it's just a early game thing. I mean, the game comes out pretty soon, but maybe they haven't implemented the assets of the brutes yet, and they're going to improve it. But right now, they look very boring. The player staggers a brute here by shooting their legs. I think that's kind of a cool mechanic. That's just adds depth to the gameplay and will show some different ways that you could fight the characters. I don't know how that will affect like shooting them in the arms or some other section of their bodies, but I'm interested to see it. The brute that runs at him before he staggers him, though, has a really, really kind of silly animation, in my opinion. It looks like he's doing a regular jogging animation, but they sped it up like ×3, and it just doesn't look convincing at all. The animation of the brutes in like Halo 2 or 3 or something, they start like charging at you, like almost running on their knuckles like a gorilla or something like that. And I think that's a lot more interesting. As wonky as the animation and like fighting the brutes in Halo 2 was, I think that's more interesting. And we don't need that completely. Like they could run on 2 legs, but just switch in between those kind of running styles intermediately or whatever. I think that would be a really good idea. They have this equipment thing is back. Like you could throw down a shield wall. And I don't know if this is something that they just implemented for the demo, but the shield wall actually replaces his grapple hook for a second, and then once he puts it down, he has the grapple hook again. I'm guessing you have to interchange these items. I'm not sure why it would replace it down there on the button prompt. I don't really know. But I like the idea of equipment. I think they're very fun in Halo 3, even though some of them are completely broken, like the regenerator. I think really ruins the pit. And I think it's a huge part of that game is battle rifle duels. So if somebody just has an equipment that automatically makes them invincible in battle rifle duels, then why would that be a thing? So I hope the regenerator doesn't come back, at least for multiplayer. I like this energy wall thing. I think it's pretty interesting. I think it could have a more interesting design. I think it's a little boring, but who knows? I'm sure it'll have some cool, interesting design. I'm not really sure who did the adaptation for Halo 2 to Anniversary. I'm guessing it wasn't 343 because it looks great. But if it was, good job 343. That's the one thing you did that I really loved was Halo 2 Anniversary. But there's still a few things in that game and Halo 1 that are kind of weird. Mostly shader things, like you'll run into a place with an energy barrier or like one of those energy shields that are just seem like the Covenant deployed them. And in the regular edition of the games, you can see through them. They're semi-transparent like how you can see here in Infinite. But in the Anniversary editions, they're just covered in ugly shader effects and you can't actually see through them. And I hope that once they get all the lighting fixed for this game, they don't add something to this energy wall because it's actually really easy to see through it and get the enemies. And I hope there's some balancing that goes on with this energy shield thing if it's added to multiplayer, because it's a little unfair that it's a giant shield that you could still shoot through and hit people and see so well through. Hopefully they do something like that for balancing if it's in the multiplayer. I really like that the enemy's armor breaks up when you shoot it. I think that'll be really interesting in the actual game with how you deal damage to the enemies. The Master Chief slides past the shield in this sequence right here. I don't know how I feel about that really. I don't think it's a terrible addition to the game, as long as it's kind of slow. It seemed like it was kind of slow right here. Like you don't get a speed boost when you use it, you're just kind of sliding to a halt. If that's the case, then it's not bad, I guess. I don't know, we'll just have to see. I don't know if it's a terrible addition to the game, honestly. But I can see how there might be some issues. Like, when you start adding variables like that aren't really big kind of freedoms in how you approach situations, it's more of how the enemy is going to interpret the scenario. Say you're coming around the corner in Halo 3, you can jump, you can crouch, you can walk, but that's about it. You can like juke around and like trick people and stuff, but when it comes to the base movement, that's about all you can do. And if you have to account for that kind of sliding thing, you have to account for weird animation things like where the head is going to be during a slide and stuff like that, and it just adds these kind of unnecessary layers that don't really add that much more to the game. But we'll see. I'm not sure how it will affect the game overall. And the Master Chief uses his grapple shot thing for the first time in this part, and I think that the grapple shot is a nice addition to the game. 343 has said it will behave differently in multiplayer. I'm not sure what that means, but it seems well balanced right now. Even if it was exactly how it is now in multiplayer, it seems good. It has a long cooldown, and when you use the grapple, it doesn't immediately pull you in. Like, it's not launching you across like in Sekiro or whatever. Like, it's not giving you a speed boost really. It shoots and then it slowly starts to pull you in, and that speeds up a bit and it launches you, and you could use it to get to better vertical positions and stuff. But I don't think you'll really gain an advantage by using it on like a far wall, so people won't be zipping around the map. It seems like an interesting addition to the sandbox, and I really don't have an issue with it. I also really like that you can use it to pick up fusion coils. The only thing that I'll really have a big issue with it, I think, is if you can use it to pick up weapons. And the problem with it is, I don't think being able to pick up weapons with your grappling hook will be a good addition to how the game plays. But if you have a grappling hook in the game and you can't pick up weapons with it, people will be confused, because that is like the first thing I would try if I had a grappling hook in multiplayer, is to pick up weapons. And I don't think that would be a welcome addition to how the multiplayer plays out, because imagine you're on the pit and everybody's running for rockets. The peril of trying to get into that small space to get the rockets is worth it, and everybody's fighting for it. But if somebody can just use the grappling hook to grab it out of there, then it's not quite as interesting. I do like that you can grab fusion coils and stuff with it like that. even though the one time they showed off was kind of lame because he throws it at a shade turret or something and it just takes out its shield. So they could have done something more fun and destructive. Like there's a section later where he just shoots some random barrels and it explodes and doesn't really kill anything. It would have been more interesting if he had used that and blown up the barrels there, just picked up a fusion coil, thrown it by the fusion coils and killed some enemies. Like this demo could have benefited from many takes and then deciding which one was the best one. I don't know if that's how they did it, but this one was kind of lame. I wonder what other things you could do with the grappling hook. Might be interesting to be able to like disable the grappling hook, like use it for a second and then pull in and then like disable it. I wonder if you have to jump to get pulled to where you're at. That would be nice because it would be a good way of differentiating between if you want to pull something towards you or if you want to pull yourself towards something. Like say there is a large crate on a cliff or something and you want to knock that onto a player to kill them. If you just stood still and used the grappling hook, it would pull it towards you. But if you wanted to go up there, you would use the grappling hook and then jump after it hits the target and then it would pull you. I'm not sure how they programmed it. I don't know how it's going to work, but I don't think it's a terrible addition to the game. I like that the Brute has the jump pack thing again. I was just playing Halo 3 the other day and the Brutes were doing some really crazy things with that. The AI in that game's not bad at all in Halo 3. Like there was sections where I was like hiding just to like have fun and be a little more tactical because Halo 3 is super easy. You don't have to hide. But I like to put it on legendary, turn on the mythic skull, and add the one that just gives them, or mythic's the one that gives them more health. I like to put on mythic, which gives them more health, and use the thunderstorm skull so that they have better, like their higher ranks. So it makes it a little bit harder. It's still like the easiest Halo game in the series, but it's more fun that way. And there were points where the enemy would jump, like the Brute would jump back onto like a side cliff thing and start flanking me and shooting me. And it's really fun and really interesting. Like that's really interesting. I like that the enemies will have access to verticality. I don't know how well used it will be in this game. Hopefully they program it so that sometimes they will just attempt to find higher ground instead of just jumping all over the place for the sake of jumping all over the place. Hopefully they do something cool with it. I really didn't like the Brute dying animation that was right here. The Brute like goes into a weird face down position before transitioning to ragdoll. Overall, I'm not a huge fan of death animations at all. In Halo 4, there's a lot of death animations. Almost every single enemy has a death animation. Grunts will always use a death animation if you headshot them. Sometimes it's more interesting and it's always more dynamic if there's a chance for the characters to go straight into ragdoll. Halo 2 would have enemies go straight into ragdoll and it was always extremely cool. Like you just double shot an elite and they do like a cartwheel because they just get launched off their feet, or like they're inheriting the momentum of their running force, but they're also taking the impact force of the headshot, so they kind of spin. And the same thing happens to the Marines. Sometimes they'll do an animation, but most of the time they will do like a flip. And it's just a lot more interesting when enemies go straight into ragdoll, and it happens in multiplayer too. You'll go into an animation if you're killed by like an SMG, or if you're sometimes when you're beat down, but almost always in Halo 2 your character will go straight into ragdoll if they are killed by a battle rifle or a carbine or something, and it's a lot more interesting. I like the design of like this banished elevator thing. I like this general area right here. It looks good. I'm sure you could search those little banished bases for parts or upgrade crap and currency. Not super excited about that, but I do like these areas. I think they're well constructed. Hopefully there'll be more in the exploration besides being on the surface. You can see that there's kind of this Minecraft type thing with the stuff hanging down there. Maybe there's like a forerunner structure that you could explore into right there. And I have a feeling Flood's going to be in this game later, so maybe there'll be like weird flood colonies that you could find underground and go really far into. That sounds like it would be really fun to do, especially on co-op or something like you run into with your friends and be like, oh shit, it's a flood colony. Do we want to go down there and get upgrade points or whatever? That sounds like it would be a really fun experience. But that's just me speculating and hoping for something cool like that. I think the jackals look really good right here. I've seen a clip somewhere, or not a clip, a photo somebody shared of a jackal, and the design of its armor seems like it's something like the CE armor. And it looks really good. I really like the jackal designs here. I like that you can actually see the jackal and it's not some weird skin suit that covers the entire thing like they did in Halo 4 and more so in Halo 5. Almost every single jackal you ran into in Halo 5 was in those weird like special ops suits. And I just want to say, I give 343 a lot of shit, but I actually really like the jackal designs in 4 and 5. The kind of insomniac looking creature design of the jackal. I don't think they're bad. But that being said, I also really like the original jackal design, so I don't mind if they got rid of the 343 one. I just don't think it was terrible. I don't like the Ravager. I don't think it's a good substitute for the concussion rifle or the breach shot. I've already said that. But also, it seems like the shots don't seem to add force to anything, and that was one of the most fun and interesting parts of the breach shot and the concussion rifle, is that it was really good against vehicles, just obviously not killing them, but flipping them and getting people out of them, or it was fun to flip objects and potentially splatter people. But the Ravager doesn't seem like it's capable of that. Also, I don't really like the design. It just seems like a big tube or like a car engine that you hold and it has a blade at the end of it. And I think the particle effects are really weird. I like the weird liquidy thing with the plasma effects, but functionally it's just a burst fire energy weapon that you have to vent instead of reloading. And as we'll see in a second, there's like a plasma carbine thing that they've added, which hopefully doesn't replace the actual carbine, and that's just a burst fire plasma thing that you can vent instead of reloading. And this doesn't even seem like it really has a large area of effect like the breach shot or the concussion rifle. So I'm not really sure what the point of having those two weapons is. It seems like more redundancy. It's like maybe this one does a little more damage per shot, but the other one has more range, but they're essentially very similar weapons, and I'm not liking that because 343 has a really bad track record of making redundant weapons. There's something that the brutes do where they launch grunts who are holding the plasma pistol or the plasma grenades, and it's like a suicide explosion thing. That seems fun. I don't have any issues with that. I don't know. It just seems like a nice addition to the thing. I'm not going to criticize everything. I don't think that's a bad addition to it. It seems fun. One thing I noticed about the jackals I thought was weird is that the jackals hold their shield with their left hand and they shoot with their right hand. Not sure why they decided to do that. I feel like it's been the other way around for almost every single Halo game where the shield's in the right hand. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. I don't know. I just think it's another thing where that was like a unique element of Halo. And it's obviously not a big thing. It's a nitpick, of course. But it's just, if you have something that's unique like that, why change it? You gain nothing from switching the hands of the shield and the weapon with the jackal except losing that very small little piece of identity of that type of character. It was interesting. That's not something you see very often in video games, a character that's essentially using their left hand to shoot something. I just don't see the point, but who knows. Now, and I also really don't like the design of the Pulse Carbine. I think it's really ugly, and once again, it might just be the lighting, but it looks like a toy. It just doesn't look iconic or interesting in any way whatsoever. And I think this weird honeycomb display thing with the overheating, or like the feedback on the heating and what you need to vent, I don't think that looks very good right there. I think it looks really bad, actually. Overall, it's just not a very interesting design. Like 343, I'm just gonna flat out say this, isn't good at designing weapons. the best thing I think they've designed is the railgun. I think the Halo 5 Magnum looks pretty okay. But like, they're really bad with Covenant weapons. The Storm Rifle is hideous, and it's not even really ugly. It's just extremely generic and boring, especially compared to the Plasma Rifle. And this would have been a really good chance to create something that's larger like the Plasma Rifle that would look interesting here. And even if the Plasma Rifle is still in the game, people might say, you don't know that's replacing the Plasma Rifle. Well, okay, maybe it's not. But what service does the Plasma Rifle hold then if this thing's essentially a fast shooting blue bullet Plasma Rifle shooting thing? It's like, okay, we'll just have more redundant weapons, and assuming that the Banished will have their own automatic weapon, there you go, there's another what's it called, spiker or assault rifle variant or something that the Banished will have. There's just a lot of weapons they add to this game, and related to that, but unrelated to anything in the trailer, I really hope the saw doesn't come back. I don't think the saw has a good place in the sandbox, but I do think there's space there for a large ammo capacity weapon that's kind of difficult to use, and I think that the brutes would be a really good choice to give that to. I think that they're the perfect kind of species or character thing to have an LMG type weapon, and I think it should be something that you kind of hold how you hold the mountable turret in Halo 3, but not like a mounted weapon. It's just a weapon that you hold, and the animation or the way they hold it is the left hand forward holding an upper grip, and then the other one holds it kind of like a chainsaw grip. And I'm not sure how it would perform exactly. Definitely different than the saw, because the saw was just a better assault rifle, which is really stupid. But maybe they could do something with that. And it would be cool to have a melee with that as well, with the spikes at the front. I just think there's room for them to do something like that. There's a weapon in Republic Commander that I'm thinking of that seems like kind of a brutish weapon that fits that kind of area. I don't think it should perform that way because that's just like a regular LMG, but I feel like there's something they could do there. Like with this plasma carbine thing, it's hard to tell if it's headshot capable, but even if it is headshot capable, I'm fine with that being added to the huge list of headshot capable weapons in this game so far, because it's different enough. It's like a 5-shot burst. The rounds move really slowly, but if it's headshot capable, that's kind of interesting. That being said, if it's not, then it's basically just a slightly more accurate, faster shooting version of the Ravager, and it's pointless and redundant. Now, I really don't like the Mangler for a lot of reasons. I think the design is okay, but I don't really see the point of the weapon. It's a headshot capable pistol, which we already have, but it shoots slower, but supposedly does more damage. But it's headshot capable, so why would we need it to do more damage? Why would we want a slower firing, stronger headshot capable weapon that can't scope? It's just, it doesn't make sense to me why they add these weapons that don't have their extremely fine-tuned place in the sandbox. It's just, there's no reason for it. It doesn't serve a purpose. I mean, I could see if the pistol had a really slow rate of fire, and this one you could like blast really fast, like the alternate fire of the Magnum in Counter-Strike, or the revolver in Counter-Strike, and you just like, you can get all 8 shots off in like 2 seconds or something, but it still takes like, I don't know, 3 shots to the head to kill somebody with full shields. That sounds like it would be a fun and interesting weapon. It has the potential to kill someone faster than the other headshot weapons, but the accuracy is lower and the magazine size is lower, so you have to be in close and get all those headshots perfectly. I mean, that sounds like something that could be interesting, but that's not how it performs, and it just seems kind of useless. Also, I don't think the person who plays this demo plays it in an interesting way. I don't think they're really doing service to it. I feel like there's a lot of ways you could have tackled this scenario that just would have been more fun, but they're like they're just like jumping into this stupid shade turret and shooting at really close enemies and trying and attempting to shoot people in the head with that mangler thing and failing. I feel like they really should have took a few takes of this and chose the best one, and if they did, then I don't know why they chose this one. And there's this shotgun, this bulldog thing, and I've heard that's replacing the main shotgun from Halo. If so, that's really weird, but if not, it's still really weird. I'm a fan of the Mauler. I think that the Mauler competitively is better than the Halo 3 shotgun, but I think that the shotgun is a more interesting weapon, mostly because of it's slightly unbalanced, but it's still good, and it's really balanced in a way where when you use it, you have to think about how you're going to use it. You have to get in really close, and if you miss your shot, it has a really slow firing rate, and you have to think about how to get in there for your next shot. Or the person who you just missed is like, okay, they missed, I already shot them a couple times, 2 more bursts to the head and they're dead. It's a very risk versus reward weapon, and if you use it right in a skilled way, then you could get some nice kills, and I don't feel like they're cheap kills at all when you use the regular shotgun. This weapon, I just don't understand why they would make it like this. Like, that was what I was describing, was kind of the defining traits of the shotgun, and now they've increased its fire rate. Doesn't look like they've affected its damage. You can still take out brutes in like 2 shots. Increased its fire rate, haven't changed its damage. It's more accurate and it has more range. I'm not sure why they did this, and it's a lot less interesting looking. The design of the weapon is extremely generic. It just looks like I don't know, it's just a regular sci-fi shotgun thing. It's not interesting. Once again, it has a Picatinny rail thing, and it's just, I don't really get the point. I don't know, they just change an iconic weapon that works perfectly, and they add something that doesn't look interesting, and in my suspicion will not perform the sandbox role that it needs to perform, but we'll see, I guess. And for some reason the brutes are using it. I don't really have an issue with brutes using the UNSC weapons, but I don't know, I think that's just, I like it more than if they had created an entire separate close range brute weapon to use, unless it was super different from the shotguns. I'd rather have them be using this shotgun that the humans also use than them creating an entire superfluous weapon in the sandbox just for the brutes, like they did with the Mauler. Like, the person playing is just shredding through all the banished troops in this area and just like 2-shotting them with this 8-round fast shooting shotgun thing. And I mean, even if they decrease the fire rate to make it perform more like the regular shotgun, why would they change the design to make it less iconic and less interesting looking? I don't really have anything to say about this monologue that the brute guy gives, besides the fact that I like the character. Some people are saying the monologue thing and all that stuff isn't very Halo. I disagree with that. I mean, I don't know what's not Halo about it, but I can't say it's particularly Halo, but it doesn't really matter. I think he's a fun character. He's excited to fight Chief and whatnot, but I think it's cool. But I think that how they presented it in this gameplay trailer thing was kind of cringy. How the camera's so close to the character's face and on his face for so long, especially when they have these shader issues going on right now. It just didn't seem like a good choice for the presentation. I don't know. I don't know why they would do that. But I'm excited to fight this character. I think they did a good job with choosing the voice actor and everything, and it's I don't know. I don't know how they could possibly do boss battles in a fun and interesting way. They kind of failed miserably with Halo 2 and Halo 3. But and I really didn't like fighting what's his name? I don't even know his name. I'll just post it on the screen here. The Revenge of the Fallen Transformers 2 guy. That I didn't like at all because Halo 5 story is garbage. I don't know. I'm gonna try and stay optimistic. I still want this game to succeed. I still want to have fun playing this game. trust me, I don't want this game to be bad. I never look at a Halo game coming out and think that I want it to be bad. They just end up being bad. I want to play Halo and have fun for the next like 10 years, but I have a feeling that I'm going to just kind of like this game and have to wait another 10 years for a good Halo game, or potentially a good Halo game, because I don't know, if 343 is still making it, it might just end up being garbage again. 343, I really hope you do a good job on this game. There's a lot of things I really don't like about it so far, but I'm still going to try and be optimistic. I don't know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. It's probably going to be a game dev thing, so if you're watching this for Halo, thanks for watching this really long video, and if you watched it this long, you probably agree with some of my sentiments. See ya. Bye. Thanks for watching.